Are you ready, surfers? We've got a big, freaking energetic week, volcanic, in fact. And that's the metaphor for the energy that is proposed here with a new moon in Scorpio and opposed to Uranus. And we also have that big date everybody's throwing around now, 11/9. So we can look at that and see what's going to happen there or what might be happening energetically. And I'm still working through some sort of little congestion thing. It's minimal. Never really got sick. Feeling great. Taking some mullein leaf with my anti-parasite herbs. Cheers. All right, here is our influence slide, and we're going to do this triangulation again for the solution. This is one of those weeks where just because you're going to feel a certain way is going to be a big feeling, in my opinion, doesn't mean that you act on it. And that's why we separate out in these CIRF reports. We separate the what are you going to feel, what's everybody going to feel, and then at the end we're going to talk about some things that you should consider doing and how you should behave throughout the week to maximize your success through this energy. Sort of drastically, this might be the polar opposite, which kind of goes back into last video where we were talking about dualities, polarities, and the importance of seeing the full picture. Anyway, the influence is going to be big, unprecedented times. And I'm thinking heightened anxiety because of this big Uranus influence. And I'll be more specific later, just giving you the overview. We do have early in the week Mercury going into Sagittarius. And that just happens to be a perfect square over Saturn as he's moving into the new sign. Then we have the new moon in Scorpio, and that's with Mars. And there's some parallel kind of stuff and some contra-parallel stuff that we need to talk about because it really ignites everything. We already have the archetype of volcano with these alignments, but now you add in the parallel, contra-parallel to it. So it should be interesting. And then we have Venus and Mercury in an inconjunct, which I want to explore that. That's towards the end of the week. But the I-Ching says youthful folly. And normally when we see that, we've seen that in the past, that's more commensurate with like a Leo kind of energy. And that's not what I think the I-Ching is proposing. It's part of the Mercury in Sagittarius because Mercury goes into detriment and is weakened a little bit. And I'll explain what that means. But sort of feeling the grandiosity of everything, and so it's overwhelming. It's harder, and that adds to this anxiety thing. So for mind and communication and Mercury, it's just the great unknown, the maybe the overwhelm of trying to gather up all the information that is being spewed, if that's a word. Overall landscape, we shift out of, we're going to start with the fixed water backdrop like we've been talking about, and that's going to be good through the new moon. And but shifting out of that should be interesting too. So we have a shift, an energetic shift. We have Mercury going into Sag, and then we've got this new moon opposed Uranus. So Uranus throws everything off. You don't know what to expect, and you can't with Uranus. And so it's those things together produce this unprecedented times, but the youthful follies coming from these kind of unexpected changes that you didn't plan for. The dream bots is not going negative. It's still somewhat positive, but that's not the primary theme there. It's a sudden rise in interest and engagement in people just being interested. Okay. So it's sort of like feels more like the Great Awakening to me. And then the congruency score, I just forgot to change. It's well into the 90s. It's very well triangulated. All right, let's get moving. And big shout out to Erica Spradlin, 1421. Big shout out. You won this week's Best Comment Award. I like that some of you are kind of feeling the CIRF before it shows up, before you watch. And I like that. And see how we I love the concept of triangulating. We got a lot to say on that, but may not be interested in it. Dreambot, top word, food. Food is on everybody's mind, and not because everyone's hungry. I think more people are hungry, but I think they're messing with the food. And I think that just puts a lot of anxiety into people's minds. But here's the big shift. There are some positive words in here, the same kind of ones like sunny and some other ones. Raise. These are the words that still are high in the collective. Now, I will say this, back out a little bit. The Dreambot kind of imploded. Not broke. It's not broken, but it brought back so many less dreams. And so I'm wondering if these sites that have the dreams are people just not dreaming, or is it just a technological contraction? It happens on occasion, but I thought I would point that out, that, we have these really low surge scores. We only had 30 words with a positive surge score. So it really contracted. But we have the rays and the sunny. We have these words that are kind of like increase in improvement and positivity. But the overall context here is like the word interested. That rose, and that's number 4. So I think these are related. So like food is bringing people interested in what's happening in the world. I think more people are interested in it. And then the timing of all this, there's 2 words right together, current and currently. And so that really brings us into the present moment. And there's other words in there. All these red arrows are more of like, it's happening now. What's happening now? I'm interested in what's happening now. That's the theme of this Dreambot. All right, let's get back to the astrology. You are here in the eclipse cycle. We've already had our 2 eclipses, and those rule the next 6 months. So we're right here at November 13th, new moon in Scorpio. And here's our energy chart for the week. And so we call it the unpredictable volcano, and you'll know why. You'll know why. The song that goes with this is Jimmy Buffett. I don't know where I'm gonna go when the volcano blows. And who is Mr. Utley? All right, so we have an unpredictable volcano, and that starts elevated in the beginning of the week, and really goes up into the highest parts of this with the new moon in Scorpio and the sun conjunct Mars oppose Uranus. That goes exact. And here's our kind of big overview of November. We only have 3 retrograde planets left: Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune. We have Venus that has just entered into homeland Libra. We have Mercury early in this week going into Sag, and then the new moon on Monday, and a lot of other things. So let's go ahead and get started in our detailed analysis of the astrology. You can see here a picture of a volcano, and that is, let me explain these parts and pieces. You have Scorpio, check. Big, passionate energy. You have Mars, big, fiery, could be defensive or offensive kind of energy, the fighter of Mars. And you got, of course, the sun, the hot, hot sun. So there's a lot here together, but look at this. It's extra intense because Venus, Sun and Mars are parallel with each other. So they're in the same speck of sky. They're going to stay that way when we have our Mars Cazimi on Telegram. I gave you that predictive chart. I think it's on the 17th. Don't quote me on that, but they stay parallel. So very, very intense. That's what that means. And then get this. So the Scorpio side is intense together. And then on the opposite side is Uranus, the unpredictable nature of Uranus. So we go back up to our volcano and we can see that if, imagine standing out here as this volcano is blowing, you see the hot lava coming towards you, but you don't know really which way it's going to go. And furthermore, what does this do? It really changes the landscape, like the physical landscape of what we're living in. If you were standing there, that whole landscape is decimated, is changed, is morphed. And you don't even know if that lava is still going to be coming towards you or if it's going to divert over and take out the other city or whatever. But that's the nature of Uranus. Remember, Uranus in Taurus, so it's an earth sign. So that metaphor really stays true. It's a volcano, volcanic action that has a lot of big hitting players. You have Mars, you have Uranus. Both can really want what they want. Uranus wants rebelliousness and independence. Just leave me the hell alone. And Mars wants to get their point across, or they want to get action and they want to defend themselves. And those two going opposed to each other, there's going to be some big action. So now that we have just big action with this opposition, now you have the Scorpio, the sun, and the intensities all behind it. So it's big energy. It's only getting bigger. We start at the 9th, Thursday, and that's the day that everyone's kind of throwing around now as the reverse 9/11, and people will have like opinions of what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know it's going to be a big energy, and that's not even the biggest energy this week. So then we shift over to Friday, and in Friday we have Mercury going into Sagittarius. Now our minds, thoughts, communication all sort of change because Mercury's in detriment now, and now our metaphor is more like you can see here where this guy is looking through his telescope at the big starry night and all the vastness of it. Just imagine that. That represents Sagittarius. Now the telescope represents Mercury, because Mercury wants all the details. I want to go look in. I want to go see all these different spaces. Mercury doesn't have all that great talent to be able to put it all together and see the forest through the trees. It wants to see the individual trees, and it can be overwhelming. And that's what mind and thoughts are doing today. And while Mercury transits Sagittarius, but look at this, let me take this away here. As soon as Mercury is ingressing into Sag, it's almost a perfect square over to Saturn. So now as Mercury is looking into the vastness and finding things of interest, might see some scary stuff, might see an old monolith or some ancient curiosities, but it's ominous. It's not real happy, and there's this urge to figure it out, and might have some sort of a coldness to it. maybe some expectations, some discipline in there too. So Saturn's making some added pressure on your thoughts and the way that you communicate. You want to see the details across this big picture, and it's hard. It makes it really hard. That adds to the heightened anxiety. And that I-Ching, I think it's just a wonderful hexagram to put all this together, was the I-Ching 4 in the youthful folly. There is kind of it's a humbling experience for Mercury. And you realize that you can't know it all. And it's like smoke starts coming out of mind. And if you've got a big rulership of Mercury in your chart, like I do, that could be a tough day. Tuesday, the 10th, trying to figure everything out, especially with that volcano going off. Saturday, the 11th, this is where Mars and Uranus is in a perfected opposition. It happens at 3:11 p.m. Central Time. And again, I want to highlight these players here are in parallel on this side, and they're contraparallel down here. So they're exact opposite in inclination. And this makes it extra conflicted. So this makes the volcano extra powerful. And it makes the unprecedented times thing much more unpredictable. Just an update on the moon. Moon's waning. And final, it's a waning crescent. Saw her this morning. Absolutely beautiful. Just a little sliver here. And she's entering into Scorpio at this time. So making that terminal approach to the new moon. Sunday the 12th, write down your dreams. Dreams are going to be big, not just because of the trine over to Neptune that is starting to strengthen from where the new moon's going to be, but also the moon itself in a waning crescent. This is the biggest thing, is reflection, dreams, relaxing, rejuvenating. So that's a perfect match on this day, Sunday the 12th. But in reality, what I just said is a valid for the whole week, as we'll get into the solution later. Now we have a picture of the cauldron, and it's the cauldron of transformation. Scorpio is the zodiac home for big things transformative. Pluto is the player there, but Mars is also a ruler, and we're only talking 2 degrees away. Well, not even 2, just like 1.5 degrees away. Still parallel, right? So all this is super intense. Now the moon is not parallel, obviously. That would mean it was a eclipse, and it's not. So we have Sun and Mars parallel and 1.5 degrees away, and so extra intense. It's obviously a dark moon. You're not going to see anything, but the influence is there, and that's like metaphorically just a perfect match to Scorpio. Can be dark, and dark's not implying evil. Any one of the zodiac signs can be evil. But so at 3:27 a.m. Central, let's see, what is it? Daylight savings time, I think, or whatever. We had to do our time change, which I did not enjoy. All right. Now we shift to this new moon period. This is the next 30 days. So at this time, you're going to be setting your intention for your Scorpio goals. And here's some kind of some generic things, like it's a good time for self-love or spending time doing things that you're passionate about. Or you could find new passions in this 30-day period. You could transform how you live your life or one of your big habits. Great transformative period for you. Getting rid of bad habits would be a good thing. introducing new habits. These are just different ideas. Also, shadow work. And one easy thing to do is to just notice when you're being triggered. Anytime you're being triggered, according to some philosophy, it means you still have some work to do, some advancement, until you get to the point where you don't get charged up on every little event that happens in your life. That's a possibility. So channeling your resentments into some shadow work. So that is not necessarily done just at 3:27 a.m. It's done over the course of this 30 days, and especially the second week in this cycle. So, we take a week to sort of prep and plan everything. If my cursor represents where the moon is, so we're going to go to like the first quarter moon, and this is just sort of the prepping phase. And then we get into the waxing crescent moon, or gibbous, waxing gibbous. And now we really start hard charging towards those Scorpio goals that you identified at 3:27 a.m. or as close to that as you can get. I don't expect everyone to get up at middle of the evening and interrupt your sleep just so you can do that. You can do that in the morning, a few hours later. But now with the volcanic action here, we also have this enchanted forest that's happening with a big healthy trine over to Neptune. We introduced it a couple of days ago, and this is a very highly dreamy kind of a take on things. There's imaginations, there's fantasy. So going back to Mercury that's now in Sag and starting to look into that vast night sky, with this Neptune thing, you can really see more than what's there. It's very possible. It's very, very tricky, but it can also be kind of calm the anxiety a little bit, especially from this volcano that's happening between Uranus and Scorpio. I think that's about it. So we move on to Tuesday the 14th. Now, as soon as that new moon finishes, we are looking at fixed water sort of washing away. We only have 4 water signs. We only have 4 mutable or fixed. So we don't have a dominant anymore. So it's sort of getting to a more of a neutral landscape. And what I wanted to introduce here on Tuesday is Venus in conjunct Jupiter. Now, this analogy or metaphor, on the one hand, is very, very graceful. We have Venus, so point up to Venus, but she's on a tightrope, and you can imagine roses in her hand and indicate just love and wanting to be beautiful, and then gold, so representing wealth and look at all the money I have. Not that it's all showy. It doesn't have to be showy, but now imagine it's on a tightrope, and on a tightrope we have to make all these small, tiny, delicate adjustments with these things in our hand, and it can be very positive because it's Jupiter and it can be expansive, and Mercury's going to get drawn into this as well. Tomorrow and Wednesday, everything is going to be almost exact. Excuse me. So let's go there right now. We have the 2 inconjuncts that I want to point out. Yeah, you have the square that starts to develop Saturn and Sun, Mars, but it's so early. I don't think that's dominant. I think the dominant energy on Wednesday, the 15th, is this Jupiter. And it's not pure positive. It can be a planet of excess, but like we talked about, it's that inconjunct which kind of puts us onto the tightrope. And it says, as long as you're careful, things can be really positive for you. But the neat thing is that feeling of hope. Like you're not focused so much on falling from the tightrope. You're more interested, and you can definitely feel the hope of getting to that other side, and it feels inspiring. So what goes exact here is Mercury in conjunct Jupiter. That's at 8 degrees 47 minutes in their respective signs. And look at Venus. Venus is almost perfect there too. Very, very close. Just a 14 or 13 minutes away from perfect in conjunct. So both mind and your relationships and need to be beautiful and graceful are all on tightropes, but not in a negative sense. Just adds a little bit of anxiety, but that anxiety that is inspires you to achieve something more positive for yourself, some expansiveness and wisdom. All right, that was a lot. Now we have the I-Ching says youthful folly, careless or rebellious attitudes, characteristics of inexperience. Well, what do you expect? We're in unprecedented times. And yes, history does repeat itself, but I don't think everyone is real. And plus, what is history? Just what the garbage is they told us it was? Or, what is history? Do you really know history? And I think that's what adds to this predicament. And in the fixed signs, everyone thinks they know because they weren't been taught history. So they think it's absolutely true, but the history books are written by the winners, so they don't include the perspectives of anybody else. In other words, youthful folly, it's youthful in that we've never seen this before. And it's challenging times. Parts of this we've seen before, but it's not exactly the same. Difficult experience is the most powerful teacher. All right, remind yourself that. What am I learning here? It is the nature of youth to stumble into error through carelessness or playfulness. Similar problems can plague childish adults, and there is a playfulness with Mercury going into Sagittarius. But I think most of this has to do with just the tremendous transformation of Scorpio mixed with the change of Uranus and possibly the insights. Line 2 says treating foolishness kindly can actually bring good fortune. Be patient with the ignorant. Oh, that's hard to do. Treat your associates compassionately. Okay, let's try it. Line 3, devotion to the rich, powerful, or beautiful is dangerous. So this is the space or the metaphor of a weak person who's trying to woo the rich person. Not a good sign to do that. Don't throw yourself at people this week. Better to let the other, your superior, your desired lover, your investor, whomever, come at least part of the way down the road to meet you. All right, let's go to our summary slide. And let's summarize the influence from November 9th through 15th. You see the little dude running. I don't know. It's the best I could do. There's a time element because of that Saturn square that's just adding to this quagmire. I didn't include that in the astrology, but it's there. The powerful forces this week will shake things up. Imagine a volcano starting to blow at the new moon in Scorpio. Its unpredictable nature inspires fear and anxiety. People panic as the landscape of life starts to change. How will this affect me? And when people feel like they're out of control, they start to control. Or some of them do. Other people run and escape, get into their addictions. So you're going to see a lot of this. People are going to try to cope with this transformation. Meanwhile, Mercury weakens while trying to make sense of it all and gets mentally overwhelmed. Saturn puts even more pressure on Mercury to figure it out. The unaware will be running around trying to flee their fear, and making lots of unnecessary mistakes because they're in escape mode. They feel like it's unprecedented times, even though maybe it has happened many times in the past. Doesn't feel like that. Oh, you know what? Oh, gosh. I forgot to change this. So there you go. There's the slide. Sorry about that, people. Man. All right. Let's go back to the solution. All right. Now, get this. We have the Grace and Beauty, hexagram 22. This is for how to behave. This is a recommendation from the I-Ching reading about how to behave. Grace arises out of adherence to form. The dancer becomes the choreography of the dance. The musician giving life to a musical score. The painter becoming one with brush and canvas. In human affairs, grace is aligned with mastery in aesthetic and cultural forms honed by time and honored by tradition. Pure beauty of the ideal. Wow. Isn't that the complete opposite of what we were talking about? How do you be graceful when the volcano's going off, right? So we put our, and I will triangulate all this for you, but it's actually a pretty easy triangulation, the solution is. So we put our conversion chart in, new moon, and it puts us into hexagram 43 of the rave, and it gives us sidereal Libra. Grace and beauty and Libra. We already have an overlap. All right. Rave 43 is breakthrough. And, that's kind of obvious that we're going to have some sort of transformation with the Scorpio new moon. But line 2 says dedication. Now, this is not the dedication that sort of the Taurus dedication or the Capricorn, the earth sign dedication. This is more of the speaking to the Mercury who with the telescope and trying to gather all the information in. It's maintenance of specialized attitudes which promote breakthrough, unique mental habits and thought processes which promote insight. So it says to that Mercury, even though you feel overwhelmed, trying to find it all, don't give up. Keep looking. But more importantly, in this triangulation, I'm going to show you that it's a mental space that is overlapped with the Grace and the Libra. Let's just go there now so I can show you directly. All right, here it is. Zoom back out. All right. And then we have all these pictures here. We have picture of Grace and Beauty. Now this is like an orchestra and the beauty involved. All these are it's like the music becomes it's what I call it is the flow. You're in the flow. Most of these people who are playing and they're playing on the exact note at the right time. And once they all get into it, it is beautiful to watch, but it's in the flow. A lot of these people, if not all of them, even including the audience, are in the flow. But it doesn't have to be a music thing. And then we have breakthrough at dedication. It is not, as you can see with this picture, she's meditating here. This is not a call for everyone to go meditate, although that would be a great thing this week. As you'll see, this is more of don't give up. Don't give up, particularly on the things that you do to create the mindset of possibility of getting insight. Okay? So it's a mental construct. It's a mental behavior, if you will. And then we have sidereal Libra, and we have the new moon. So let's put it all together. As you gaze at the picture solutions, imagine the serenity involved in engaging with each of these spaces, including the new moon. So now that's a hard stretch. So you're saying, Chris, you are wanting us to have serenity while the volcano is going off. I'm wanting to express that, yes, in each scenario, in each event, in each world, when things are happening in your world, they create emotions. When you go deep down into that emotion, like with it, deep down inside of that is like the eye of the hurricane, where it is this space of purity, of grace, of calm. And so you can access that no matter what's happening and no matter how your ego is reacting to the situation. You can go so deep inside, not escaping. Distracting yourself is not the space that we're talking about. We're going into it. Remember, it's a Scorpio new moon. So we want to go into that disruption, into that discomfort so much that we find the eye of the hurricane. That's the space we're talking about this week. All right, so how to do it. This week is about seeing the magic of each moment, the perfect cosmic flow of everything and everyone. The I-Ching 22 is perfectly synonymous with Sidereal Libra, which is where the new moon will take place. The undisputed behavioral overlap this week is to enter into the flow state. Deeply and often get into the flow state. To enter into the flow, it's best to choose activities that you are passionate about. Doing things that you love. When in the flow, there isn't much thought, if any, that distracts you from the flow state. The more flow that you enter, the more raves promises of breakthrough that will spawn within you because you're maintaining that mental aptitude of breakthrough. Be dedicated to the grace, the ease, the beauty, and the perfection that every single moment offers. Be in the moment. Now, if you want more about this flow state, I highly recommend a guy named Csikszentmihalyi CH. The last name starts with CH. It's a Czechoslovakian psychologist. You'll find him all over on TED Talks and YouTube. He has a book called The Flow, or Flow, maybe just Flow, something about the flow. And see if I can recreate his steps here. But, every once in a while, we kind of lose ourselves in the experience. And this is what he calls the flow state. Well, he studied it and he provided these steps on how to best get into it at will. And one of them is to choose something that you're really passionate about, but not just interested. It has to be meaningful to you. From there, you want to challenge yourself just a little bit. You want to take, if you're running, you want to run a little farther. You run a little faster. You don't want to be just doing what you always do at the same caliber. So you take something you're really passionate about, you challenge yourself a little. Don't challenge yourself too much, because then you enlist the conscious mind and everything slows down. You're thinking too much. It's not the flow state. And then there was some others, but all of us have these moments across the life, these big moments. I remember in a tennis match, I was way down 3 match points, came back and won that set, and then won the whole match. I was in that flow state right from the match points against me to the point where my team was in high school was lifting me up. And that's my example of flow, because I was just I was in my body, like not dissociated, but so, and not thinking about what I needed to do next. I was just in it. And that's the only thing I can remember. Amazing experiences. And that's called the flow state. You can do it, with mechanical stuff. You can do it with, reading books and knowledge. You can do it with sports and athletics. I mean, it's hard to stay in that flow state all the time. but I suppose that's even possible. And I'm wondering if maybe the advanced meditators or the masters of being are getting to this state almost constantly. Maybe that is enlightenment. I don't know. But it brings out your true expression, the real you, in all its glory. So, access that. I wouldn't spend too much time watching the volcano blow. Now, take care of yourself. If there's danger imminent, then, respond. But otherwise, you can still stay in the flow. Oh, I do remember when a drunk driver hit me. Yeah, I started to react like 30 minutes after that, after the hit. I had my kids in the car too. It was crazy. And I avoided him just enough to where he plowed into our trailer that I was hauling, and we were okay in the truck. But it was a head-to-head, and I avoided it. I entered the flow state there. I remember that. And even getting to the point where I'm responding to an emergency in it was just clarity and serene. It was very serene, not serene after I came to, and started to realize what had happened. Like, this guy was drunk and fell asleep and almost took out my kids and me. Anyway, so you can find this flow state even in the biggest of scenarios, in the most emotional of scenarios. Go deep down into that emotion and just be. And don't avoid. We talked about no escapism last week, but that's a big one this week too. All right, here it is. Let's do this. Everybody ready? All right, we'll see you next week. Take care.